Eyelashes can be an important finishing touch in an eye drawing, and they're so much fun to draw, if you know what you're doing. Let's make sure that you do in this video. We'll cover the step-by-step process of drawing realistic eyelashes and essential information to know to draw them convincingly. If you haven't watched my video on 8 tips for drawing realistic eyelashes, definitely do so before or after this video. They're meant to be watched together for the best results in your eye drawings. My name's Marina. I'm a professional visual artist, arts educator, and founder of thedrawingsource.com, which is dedicated to helping you achieve new levels of realism in your drawings. Finally, this lesson is from my Eye Drawing Intensive, an in-depth course designed to transform your eye drawings, just as I have and as my students have. You can learn about the intensive at the link in the description box below. Let's start with what you should know about eyelashes to draw them convincingly. Placement. Let's make sure you're drawing eyelashes in the right place. As I mentioned in part 1 of my most common eye drawing mistakes video series, the eyelids have a thickness. This gives each eyelid 2 planes that we must notice and draw. The upper eyelid has a front plane and a bottom plane. The lower eyelid has a front plane and a top plane. Eyelashes grow out of the angle change between the 2 planes of each eyelid. Where is that angle change? Looking at the upper eyelid first, notice 3 lines here. The top of the upper eyelid, the middle line separating the front plane from the bottom plane, and the third line where the bottom plane contacts the eyeball. Eyelashes grow out of the middle line. That is where the angle change is between the 2 planes. It's similar on the lower eyelid. From a front view, when we can see both planes, the lower eyelid will also have up to 3 lines for us to notice and draw. Here, the top line indicates where the eyelid contacts the eyeball. The middle line separates the top plane from the front plane, and the third line closes off the front plane. On the lower eyelid, often this line will fade out or trail off. Again, the eyelashes grow out of the middle line, separating the top plane from the bottom plane. Returning to this image for a moment, if we zoom in, you'll see that the eyelashes don't grow in a perfectly neat line along the angle changes. Especially on the upper eyelid, where eyelashes are usually thicker, there can be several layers of them. This all depends on the individual. Now, even though it helps to know that the eyelashes grow out of the middle line, we often still need to look really closely to find it, because it will often be subtle or obscured. This is partly due to the structure of the eyelashes. Notice that upper eyelashes usually curve up slightly, and lower eyelashes curve down slightly, though this will vary greatly depending on the individual. Some people might have straighter eyelashes, and others can have much more curving eyelashes. Makeup can also greatly influence this. Next, notice that eyelashes fan out. So if you're viewing your model from the front, there will often be an eyelash that directly faces you. It will appear as a vertical line, straight up and down. To the left of it, the eyelashes fan to the left. The farther to the left the eyelash is, notice the difference in the angle and the degree of curvature. Compare the angle and curve of this eyelash to this eyelash. The farther to the right of the straight vertical eyelash, the more the eyelashes angle to the right, towards 180 degrees. Same thing, compare the curve and angle of this eyelash to the curve of this eyelash. The angle and degree of curvature increase the farther the eyelash is to the left or right. This will be important for us to notice and draw. Because eyelashes are often curved and fan out, this can make it trickier to see exactly where they begin. But even when it doesn't seem like it, they do originate at the angle change between the 2 planes of each eyelid, that middle line that I pointed out. If we look at a clearer example, if we trace each eyelash here to its root, we will see that they do indeed originate at that angle change. eyelashes are rarely evenly spaced or the same length. Those perfectly manicured eyelashes that you see in magazines are quite unrealistic and not what most people's eyelashes look like. Personally, I love drawing real people's unphotoshopped eyes and eyelashes. But to draw them believably and realistically, we must observe the variations in eyelashes closely so that we can represent them convincingly in our drawings. This begins by analyzing what we see. I give you a list of questions to ask yourself while observing eyelashes in tip 3 of my video on 8 tips for drawing realistic eyelashes. Let's move on to the step-by-step demonstration of drawing these realistic eyelashes. The supplies I'm using will be linked in the description box below. A quick note about the drawing I'll be showing you. It's going to be at a slight angle to the camera, which is why the proportions will look a little bit different from the reference photo. This drawing is from a personal project I'm working on, for which I'm drawing over 200 eyes. They're all approximately life-size, so they're fairly small. When I zoom in on this drawing in the video, it'll be larger than it is in life, and it might look a little bit pixelated. But I don't think that will distract from the information of the video. Which eyelash do we start with? I suggest starting with the one that feels easiest to place accurately. In this case, for me, it's the farthest eyelash on the upper eyelid. As I draw it, I visualize a horizontal line through this point where the eyelids meet, and I look to see how far above this line is this eyelash. I can also look at this negative space here. Then I can visualize the same horizontal line on my drawing to help me place the eyelash. I continue drawing the eyelashes, following what feels easiest and most obvious to me. If I feel more confident placing an eyelash in another area, I can move to that area. We don't have to draw from left to right. My intention is to approach drawing the eyelashes in a few passes, usually 2. In the first pass, I'm simply mapping where the eyelashes will go, so I'm drawing very lightly so that I can erase if I need to. I'm not positive yet about the placement of anything, so I don't want to lock in my drawing with any sharp or dark lines. If I exaggerate something or the angle looks off, I can correct it with a kneaded eraser. It's an essential tool that I use just as much as my pencil. You can learn how to use a kneaded eraser for realistic drawing in the video at this link. It doesn't look like it here because I've edited out all of the pauses, but I spend most of my time looking and a fraction of that time drawing. I'm looking at the length of the eyelashes, the spacing between the eyelashes or between the groupings of eyelashes, at the shape of the groupings, the angle of the eyelash or grouping that I'm drawing, and how curved or flat the eyelash or grouping is. Observation takes up at least as much of my time as drawing, if not more. Can you see how I'm indicating the groupings here? We simplify by grouping the eyelashes first, and then we can emphasize select individual lashes. That process will help give the eyelashes a naturalistic look. Drawing these eyelashes precisely definitely takes pencil control and dexterity, which needs to be learned and practiced. I'm using certain pencil strokes that I teach in my Foundations of Drawing Technique course, which I will link to below. Without foundational drawing technique, it's very difficult to draw precisely, to regulate the quality of your line, or to shade effectively. Here's my first pass of the eyelashes. Once I'm feeling fairly confident in their placement, angles, length, and groupings, I start my second pass, where I can darken and sharpen some of the lashes. This is still not a free-for-all. I'm continuing to look very closely to evaluate. Where are the thickest or largest groupings? Where are the darkest groupings, the lightest groupings, and the darkest and lightest individual hairs? I'm also paying attention to the edge quality of the eyelashes. Which ones are the sharpest? Which ones are the softest? I cover how to determine which edges in the eye are sharpest in part 3 of my most common eye drawing mistakes video series, which I suggest you watch next. You might notice that I rarely draw an eyelash using a single line. Instead, I build up the value through multiple pencil strokes. This lets me check several times if the eyelash is in the right place, before darkening it to the point of not being able to erase it. Only once I'm fully confident in the placement, shape, angle, and curvature of an eyelash do I make a dark, sharp line. Where it's needed, of course. Not all of these eyelashes are dark or sharp. I'm looking for that balance of unity in the eyelashes so that they look realistic, but enough variety to make them interesting. I can refer to the reference for all of this because a beautiful balance of unity and variety already exists there. Then, closer to the end of the drawing, I can decide if I want to take any artistic liberties. I already am a little bit. I've definitely exaggerated the length of the eyelashes in my drawing slightly. It's hard not to. If I go overboard in an area, I can fix it with my kneaded eraser. As I get closer to finishing these eyelashes, I start looking for smaller details, like this eyelash that curves up at a steeper angle and intersects the eyelash above it. Those details can infuse our drawings with life, but only once we have the general spacing, correct placement, and proportions. We work from general to specific. Here are the upper eyelashes. Turning my attention to the lower eyelashes, again I start with the one that feels easiest to place accurately. For me, that's this one. I'm comparing this negative space on my drawing and on the reference to help me draw it in the correct spot. Again, I start very lightly, just mapping the location of the groupings and individual lashes. I pay attention to their angle, degree of curvature, and their length. Because if you look closely, the angle, curvature, and length of each eyelash is unique. Communicating that in a drawing is what creates a realistic, believable, naturalistic look. Notice how much shorter these eyelashes closer to the nose appear, and how much less curved they look. I can fill out some of the groupings before moving on to my second pass of the lower eyelashes. Though I'll darken a few of the lower eyelashes, notice that generally speaking, the lower eyelashes here appear lighter than most of the upper eyelashes. That was too dark for this area, so I'll use my kneaded eraser to lighten what I just drew. I love the eyelashes at odd angles, or the ones that intersect other eyelashes. I'm adding some of those to bring variety to my drawing. Once I finished the eyelashes, I spent a considerable amount of time adding detail to the drawing, smoothing out values, and darkening certain areas. Don't miss my video on 8 tips for drawing realistic eyelashes, which is meant to be watched in combination with this video for the best results in your eye drawings. After that, you can head over to my eye drawing playlist for more videos on how to draw realistic, believable eyes. Or maybe you're ready to dive into my eye drawing intensive, which you can learn about in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you there.